The UFC feels hollow. And what do I mean by that, you might ask? When I think about everything the UFC has been since January when they came back, they have not put together a really, really compelling fight. UFC 324 was the most useless interim title I've ever fucking seen. They genuinely put a belt over who's the fifth best lightweight in the world. They protected Paddy Pimblett so much from the rest of the division because they thought they could make so much money with Paddy Pimblett that they gave him the worst fighter in the top five and he still lost. But he didn't just lose, he got decimated and brutalized. So we have a interim lightweight champion for what? For what? We just put a belt on a nothing ass card. Didn't you have Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez too? Why? I mean, I know why. Diego Lopez is managed by Diego Lopez's manager is very close with the matchmakers at UFC. So close, in fact, that he introduced Hunter Campbell to his girlfriend. And yes, that is a massive conflict of interest, but it's not going to stop anything. But this fight was so much of the same. Like everyone knew Lopez didn't deserve the shot because there was two undefeated people in the top five who Volk could have fought. It didn't matter anyway. They put together this poor shit in Australia. Volkanovski goes out there and just schools Lopez. And the entire thing is, while he's schooling Lopez, even worse than the first fight, it looks so much like the first fight that I couldn't even tell the two apart. At one of my jobs, they have a TV that just constantly plays UFC on Paramount. Constantly, 24/7. All it plays is the UFC. They start doing like a countdown, best fights of 2025, and they had Volk Lopez 1 on there, and I'd walk by and I wouldn't be able to tell if it was Volk Lopez 1 or Volk Lopez 2. Yes, it was in fact that hard to tell the difference. Genuinely wasting our fucking time. Then we had like fight nights. The fight nights have been phenomenal this year. You know, we got Batista Oliveira. That was a pretty good main event. Strickland Hernandez, up until that point, was the most significant fight. We've had 2 title fights, and this was the most significant fight. Then Moreno Cafano, I'll give it to him because it was supposed to be Moreno versus Almabayev, but Almabayev pulled out, so Cafano stepped up on 2 weeks' notice. But then that brings us to 326, the BMF. The BMF title has more weight than the fucking interim title. This little play title has more weight than the interim title because we all know that the winner of the BMF title is probably the 3rd best lightweight on the planet. Ilya at 1, Arman at 2, the winner of the BMF title fight at 3, the loser of the BMF title fight at 4, the winner of the interim title at 5. That's literally how the division is. Because both of these people who are fighting for the BMF belt have wins, dominant wins, over the current interim title holder. And up until this point, this is one of the most significant fights in a weight class in the sport. And that was the horseshit they gave us. Then we had Evloev Murphy, which was by far the most important fight we've had this year. We're in March. We've had one real title fight. In March. Like 13 divisions, one real title fight. It's ridiculous. But finally, they gave us a main event that seemed decent. The main event played out, and it wasn't as decent as I wanted it to be, but they put two undefeated fighters against each other. One guy who was 17-0, one guy who was 19-0, and they went 5 rounds. I can live with that. I can live with that. Then we had Adesanya Piper, which is Adesanya clearly cherry picking opponents, thinking he can run through Piper. Then we had the Moicano Duncan card last week. It's April, and this is an actual slop card with a slop main event. The card itself was relatively fun, mainly the main card, and I'll get into that later. But no, this was slop. They're just not even trying on these cards anymore. I like Hanato Moicano, ranked number 10. I like Chris Duncan. I think he deserved a shot at Hanato Moicano. As the main event, as a 5-rounder, this could have easily gone on the main card of a pay-per-view. 2 years ago, this would have been opening up a pay-per-view. But now it's the main event of a fight night. And that leads us to this week, where we're finally getting another title fight. And it's the vacant light heavyweight belt between a 2-time Alex Pereira victim and some 35-year-old the UFC keeps trying to push as a prospect. And if Prochazka wins this fight, now we're just in the shadow of Alex, because Alex decimated Prochazka twice. Decimated. The second fight wasn't even close. And then I have to look forward to next week, Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott. That is a main event. Gilbert Burns is getting a main event on like a 5-fight losing streak. Then we get Sterling versus Zalal, which I can live with. I like that. Dylan Madalena, like, why does it take till the end of April, early May to get like real fights? And the first real title fight is in May, when we get Shemaya Strickland. That's the first real title fight. Like Joshua Van, Tatsuro Taira, and Shemaya Strickland are the first real title fights this year in May. And then the UFC White House card, which might not be happening if you're paying attention with everything that's going on in the world. Hopefully it's not fucking happening. Like, the spectacle of the UFC fighting, having a fight card in the White House lawn is pretty fucking cool. But, no. If the rumors are to be believed, this card is not happening. But in between, like, why does it take 5 months for the UFC to get decent? We gotta sit through legitimately like 3 to 4 months of straight slop. Slop. First fight card, 324, 325. I can let Batista out, Oliveira slide. I'll let Strickland Hernandez slide. I can let Moreno Kavanaugh slide. Can't let 326 slide. I can let Kevin Vallejo versus Josh Emmett slide. That sounds like an Apex main event. Murphy Evloev shouldn't have ever been a fight night. I'm sorry. 2 undefeated prospects in this weight class should have been fighting. One of them should have been fighting for the belt at 325. So I can never like make that okay. Plus the rest of the card is actually just atrocious. Luke Riley versus Michael Aswell is a co-main event when Christian Leroy Duncan and Roman Lindsay are on the fight card. Michael Venom Page and Sam Patterson. You can say what you want after Michael Venom Page already won, but Michael Venom Page versus Sam Patterson is a guy who's ranked at middleweight and welterweight, fighting an up and coming welterweight who's undefeated at welterweight. and that wasn't the co-main event over some fucking UFC newcomer and some dude who hasn't, and some journeyman who hasn't fought in years. Like, what are we even doing, bro? And we had Adesanya Piper. Actually, might have been the best card of this year. Outside of the main event being kind of iffy, like, I don't know how I like Adesanya Piper, and I damn sure know I didn't like the way they announced this. Dana White's bald ass. Talking about some, hey guys, the USC's returned to Seattle. Oh yeah, Adesanya's making his return and he's fighting Joe Piper. No emotion, no enthusiasm, not a care in the world. One of my biggest stars is making his long anticipated return after getting knocked out in his last fight. Does he still have it? One of my up and coming prospects who I've glazed to hell and back is getting an opportunity against a former champion in the main event in a crowded fight night or whatever. That's just the way they're acting about all this shit. And then after that, we get Moicano Duncan, which shouldn't be a main event. Card was alright, but like shouldn't have been a main event. Then we get Prohaska Alberg. This is a perfectly fine main event. For the vacant light heavyweight title, this fight makes sense. I like it. But we're followed right behind that with Burns versus Mike Malott for 5 rounds. Gilbert Burns has lost legitimately like 5 fights in a row. I don't think I've seen him win since he fought Neil Magny in 23. Yeah, he fought Jorge Masvidal a few months later. That was his last win. And it's been like 5 in a row since. There was the Bilal Muhammad fight, Brady, Della Maddalena, Morales. That's like 4 or 5 in a row. And now he's getting a main event against an unranked guy, and it's a crowd. That's the thing that pisses me off the most. It's a crowd for this shit. Mike Malott's not even the best Canadian fighter. Ayman Zahabi, did Ayman Zahabi really need to fight Sean O'Malley at the fucking White House? Couldn't we have done, I don't know, Ayman Zahabi, Mario Batista, 5 rounds in Canada with this as a co-main event? I can live with that. But that's going to be the last thing for the next week is Gilbert Burns versus Mike Malott. Washed, barely ranked Gilbert Burns versus unranked, already failed his opportunity to make it to the rankings, Mike Malott. And that's going to be the last thing we see that night for another week until we get Aljamain Sterling versus UFC SLOP. Which I actually like this fight. I think this is a perfect fight night main event. Davey Grant in a co-main event over Montel Jackson is kind of fucking crazy. But this is a solid card. Then you had the Della Maddalena versus Prates card. I don't even want to talk about how ass the card itself is, or how Junior Tough is still signed to the UFC. But hey, JDM versus Prates is a banger of a main event. Then we get the actual first big fight of the year, and that's Chimaev Strickland. May 9th. It from January 24th to May 9th, there is no huge title fights that really mean something. That is damn near 4 months. No, it's over 4 months. Damn near 5 months of straight shit before we get something good. And that's why I'm upset. But if you like the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later.